Okay. So if we, what I was talking about is if we see this particular decision tree example that we have. Okay, this is one of the classical examples that we like any beginner student who wants to understand about decision trees. This is the first example we show the person. So let's say there are two friends who want to play tennis. Okay, so these two friends would decide when to play tennis depending on, let's say, three conditions. One is the weather condition, that is if the day is sunny or if it's overcast or if it's a rainy day. Second condition is being humidity, that is if it is a very high humid day, then the person doesn't want to play. If it is normally humid, they are willing to play. And the third condition being if the wind speed is very high. So if it's a very windy day, then we know that if people are trying to play tennis, and if it's extremely windy, then you won't have the fun of playing the game. So if there's a strong wind, then people don't want to play. If the wind speed is weak, then they're willing to play. So this particular structure is something like this is the basic structure of a decision tree. Now, why is it called a decision tree? Is because for every particular condition, we're going to test those conditions. So if we're looking at the basic outlook of the day, then we have three options: sunny, overcast, rain. Depending on those particular condition, we have to check the next condition. So if we look at it, this particular three conditions, the outlook, the humidity, and the wind, all three of them have a particular hierarchy. So outlook is given the first hierarchy, the second hierarchy, humidity and wind are sharing. Okay. Now, this is one simple decision tree, but there could be cases wherein we could have multiple trees depending on the number of columns that are available to us. So let's say if we have a very big data set which has, let's say, about 1,000 rows and let's say 30 columns. So these 30 columns, not necessarily that all 30 of those columns will be used for creating one decision tree. There could be a possibility where the system, while creating decision trees, would randomly select two or three columns and it would try to build a decision tree. Okay. So depending on various conditions, different trees would be built. So like we know, generally speaking, that if when we talk about forest, we say a forest is nothing but a group of trees. Similarly, if we want to take this decision tree concept one step further, we can create the decision tree as if we take multiple decision trees, we can create what is known as something called as random forest. Okay. So now today we'll focus mainly on the decision tree part of it, because once you understand this basic concept, then you can apply it further for trying to get better results. Okay. So is this part clear? That what exactly the decision tree is?
Yes, please.
Okay. So now we'll apply this particular concept to our data and see how we are going to perform the analysis. Okay. So the first thing that we want is we need to import our required libraries. So for data analysis, the two most important libraries that we have are pandas and numpy. Okay. So we need to import these two libraries. NP and PD are nothing but the aliases. Okay. So instead of writing entirely NumPy or entirely pandas, people generally prefer using the shortcut names like NP and PD. So if let's say you're doing some kind of Google search, or let's say one of your seniors has given you some kind of Python code that they have worked on, and you come across this word PD or NP, you can easily know that whatever has been done has been new. Suppose PD, you're looking at the term PD, that means this particular library called pandas has been used. Okay, so there are certain aliases which are quite popular in the Pythonic community. So depending on those particular, like it comes to practice, the more you practice, you'll get to know which library is being used with what kind of shortcut name. Okay, so now we have imported this two, so let's run and get it in our particular file. Next thing is we need libraries for visualizing the data. Okay, so for data visualization, we're going to take the help of Matplotlib and Seaborn. So from Matplotlib, I'm going to only import the pipeplot part of it, because that's the most used portion of Matplotlib. So we're going to import only that particular or that specific portion of Matplotlib. And the alias for pipeplot is nothing but PLT. Similarly, we have to import Seaborn, and the alias for that is SNS. Okay. Now that the basic libraries for data analysis and data visualization have been imported, now for the major chunk, that is the machine learning algorithms. And since we have already decided that we are going to use the decision tree for the particular model, so we have to import two things now. One is a decision tree classifier, and the second thing is whenever we're trying to build any particular machine learning model, we have two portions. One is the trained data and one is the test data. So let's say if we have some 10,000 data points, not all 10,000 data points will be used for building our model. What we generally do, or the general practice wherever you see, would be 70 to 80% of the data will be used for building a particular machine learning model, and the remaining 20 or 30% that is left out is going to be used to test the model. Okay, so once the model is built, we would want to understand how well the model has been built, because end of the day, it is just that looking at the data, the system has come up with some kind of equation. So let's say if it is a linear regression equation, then we know linear regression, the equation is y is equal to mx plus c. So in that, we know m and c are these two coefficients would have their own values depending on the data that has been analyzed. So once the equation has been built, just to check whether or not the model has been built properly, we would need some additional information. So that additional information comes from the test data. Okay, so that is the reason we have to make sure that once we get the initial data, we got to split it into two parts. One is the training portion and other is the testing portion. And this piece, always make sure that we always do this particular step, because if you miss out this step, then you will not be able to check your model as to how well the model is performing. So I'm going to first import that portion. So train test plate is something that I'm going to import first. So for that, we will do from sklearn dot model selection, import train test plate. So I'm doing the tab auto completion in case some of you are wondering as to how am I auto completing this. Once you start typing a few letters, you can just hit tab, and Python is clever enough to auto complete this entire statement for us. So this was the first piece we want to import from scikit-learn. That is a train test plate. Second thing, what we want is the decision tree algorithm itself. So since this is a classification problem, we are going to classify whether or not a patient has a particular heart disease. So we are going to use something called as a decision tree classifier. Okay. So, so we need to import that particular classifier from scikit-learn. Here also we can do the same thing. So this particular decision tree classifier is from the tree family. So sklearn.tree will have this particular information for us. So from sklearn.tree, we need to import decision tree classifier. Okay. So once I'm hitting tab, you can see there are two things here. One is a decision tree classifier, other is a decision tree regressor. So depending on what you're trying to analyze, you have to choose the appropriate uh, portion. So since this is a classification problem, we are trying to classify whether or not the patient has a heart disease. That is the reason I'll be selecting a classifier. If in case you had a problem where you had to calculate some kind of number, let's say that you are trying to figure out, uh, okay, we have some kind of data wherein we're trying to figure out what would be the heart rate of the person, let's say. So heart rate will be nothing but a number. So when such a problem arises, then we would require the decision tree regressor for classifying that particular problem. Okay. So classification and regression are two of the most basic tasks that we can do using machine learning. So depending on our requirement, we have to choose the appropriate uh, classifier or regressor for our problem. Okay. The third thing that I'm going to import is what we call as the classification report and the confusion matrices. So here this will come under the metrics. Just to check how well our model is performing, we need to measure those particular performance. To measure the performance, we require something called as matrices. And out of these matrices that we have, the most popular metrics that we have are nothing but the classification report. Now, this is since this is a classification problem, we have something called as a classification report. And the next thing that I would want to import is nothing but the confusion matrix. Okay, so these two things, we are going to take the help of these two things and perform our tasks. So from the machine learning piece, we require the train test plate, the decision tree classifier, and the matrices like classification report and confusion matrix. Now, once we get these three things, I'm going to run this particular cell. So now we have all of this available to us inside our Jupyter notebook. Now the major thing that comes is the we have to read the data. So I'm going to call this data frame as df, and now we are going to take the help of pandas to read our particular CSV file. So here our CSV file itself is read as heart.csv. So I'm going to tab auto complete it, and now we will run this. Okay. Now that this is read, and the data is now available to us. To get a quick view overview of like how many rows and columns we have exactly, what I'll do is I'll just print out the shape of this particular data frame. So I'll take this attribute df.shape and let's print it out. So as we can see, this is a very small data set. We only have roughly about 300 total number of entries and 14 columns. Okay, so now let's take a peek at exactly what this data set has. So I'm going to take this method called head and let's look at the first 5 entries. Okay, now once we get this particular output, there's something a little odd that is happening. So this particular columns that we have about 14 columns, but out of all these columns, let's say apart from the age, gender, and let's say the target variable, the rest everything is somewhat of a like a bit confusing. So all of them are nothing but medical terms because all of these calculations have been done with respect to the heart. So the taking help of the doctors, they have actually collected some data, and all of these are medical terms. So this is something like I can say this is cholesterol, and there's some other terminologies that we have. So this is one thing you should always remember as data scientists, that it could be any domain. Okay, not necessarily that you would go into a domain where you would like, or let's say you would always get some data where you would be knowing everything about the data previously. So let's say if some of you would want to would be really interested in doing your career in medical domain itself. Okay, so if that would be the case, always remember that you have to do a lot of research about your data. So now, like for example, if you look at this data, the first thing that you should be curious about is what each of this term mean. Okay, so for this you can obviously take the help of the expert in your particular company, or they let's say if this particular data has come from some kind of hospital, then you can always go and talk to those medical experts and try and understand what each of these terms actually mean, what would be the maximum minimum value of each of these terms, and try and understand out of these 14 variables which are those particular variables which are extremely critical when it comes to the heart condition. Okay, so these are some of the things that you should always remember. Not that a person who is going to analyze this data is going to be a doctor. I'm not saying that, but since we are now working on this particular data, we should actually have some interest and inclination to understand our data better, because if we understand the data better, we'll be able to give better results, and we can build better models that will only help us to do our jobs better. Okay, now since we got a particular idea, and now we see everything is every column is having only numbers. Okay, the next thing that we should do is, now because all these particular names are not very clear. Okay, so let's say we wouldn't know what FBS is, or some, you could think they're little weird names. So what we will do is, just to make our lives a bit easier, we're going to rename this particular columns. Okay, so I've already looked up on this particular data set and try and understand what each and every one of this particular columns stand for. So I've started. I've already written this particular piece of code previously. Okay, so this is what each and every term is okay. So I've given it a name so that we can when we actually run this and see this particular code afterwards, we'll get to know what each column actually stands for. So instead of a small short form, we'll at least have some idea as to what the column is all about. Once this is done, the next thing that we will do is let's check the information. So I'm going to call on this df.info method and let's check whether or not we have any kind of missing values in this particular data. Okay, so we know we have about 303 entries and we can see all these particular columns. None of the columns have any kind of null values. So all of them have 303 non-null values. Okay, so here one task has been become easy, that is we don't have to worry about doing any kind of data correction, or we don't have to fill in any particular missing values. None of the values are missing. The data is complete in every respect. Okay, all right. Now after this is done, there is when once we're looking at the info method, there is something a bit odd that is actually visible. So when I say bit odd, if you look at the age is a number, so it's an integer. Makes sense. But when you look at something like the gender, or there could be something like whether the person has cholesterol or not. Okay, such kind of things, when we look, we should actually take them as categories and not integers. But now when you look at this particular entry, the way Python has understood the data, Python has considered every data to be either an integer or a floating number, which is wrong. Okay, so we need to now help Python understand those particular columns which we know should be considered as categories and not integers. So that is the next step that we are going to do. We are going to redefine a few of our categorical variables so that our understanding of the data is correct. Okay. Now, for that, what I'll do is let's type out this particular categorical values. We have to let's select the few values and let's rename it so that Python would know that these are not uh, particular values those that need to be redefined as only numbers, but let's give it some string values so that Python gets to know that these are categorical values. So I'll start off with gender itself. Okay, and I'm going to take the help of filtering. So wherever the value is zero, we know Python takes the help of alphabetical order. So zero, that means out of male and female, it would be assigned to the female. Okay. Similarly, so let's copy it out so that we can save some time. So now whenever we have one, we have the value as male. Okay. Similarly, next thing that we will do is let's go for the chest pain type. This also is this should be category and not a integer. Okay, and here also SPN types, there are about four types that are present in the data. What I'll do is I'm going to write out every one of them and will assign it separately. Okay. So if it is one, we have something called as typical angina. So let's copy it out. If the value is 2, it is atypical. Similarly, if it is 3, we have something called as non-anginal. And if it is 4, we have something as called as asymptotic. Asymptomatic. These are all medical terms, so you have to be careful as to how you are going to redefine it. All right. Although I would suggest you to look up these particular terms so that you can understand the data better. The next thing we will do is let's go for the fasting blood sugar. That also should be a categorical value. So here we have two types. If it is 0, we have lower than 120 milligram per microliter. Let's copy this. And here if it is 1, it will simply become greater than the white value. Next thing that we'll focus on is this particular term called exercise induced angina. And here if the value is 0, then we'll simply say the person doesn't have this. So it's a no. And here if it is 1, it is yes. The next is what is known as ST slope. These are all medical terms, so if you're interested, you can actually go through this particular terms, Google it, and you can understand what exactly these terms are. And finally, we'll have this particular term called thalassemia. Hope I am pronouncing it correctly. If the value is 1, it is normal. If it is 2, we have something called as fixed defect. If it is 3, we have something called as reversible defect. Okay. Now that these terms are all set, this was a major portion where we had to redefine the categorical values. So now let's run this piece. Okay. Now when you run this, you could actually get this kind of errors that could come. Okay, so these are not exactly errors; these are nothing but warnings. That is because we are taking this particular filtering piece, and on top of that, we are trying to enforce this particular values. So that is what Python is telling us. The value is trying to be set on a copy of the slice. It is telling the same thing for every column that we have actually put in. Okay, so we can actually ignore this particular warning itself. Okay, now we have to check whether or not this particular columns that we have decided to turn into categories have been converted into categories. So for that, we'll simply go for D types. Okay, and now when you hit D types, you can see those particular columns that we had used, gender, chest pain type and all. Now instead of integers or floats, it is showing us object. So it has been converted successfully. Okay. Now what we will do is we will use these particular columns and we'll convert it into something called as category instead of this particular object type. Okay. So what we'll do now is we'll I'm going to create a new variable called object cats, and inside this I'm going to take those particular columns. All these particular columns that are object types, so we can simply copy them out. Okay. Now this particular list is ready. Now what we'll do is we'll write a simple for loop and we'll convert this entire columns into categories. So we can do that as follows. I'm going to take the help of this as type method to convert it into category. We can simply say dot as type of category. So by doing this, what will happen is all these particular columns which are in this object format now will get converted into categories. So let's run this. Okay. Now once this is done, just for cross checking, we can simply check the dot info method once again and we can be sure that our conversion has been done properly. So you can see here now these particular columns have the data type as category. Previously we had object. So this particular task has been successfully completed. Now the reason why we converted all of this into categories is because we want to take the help of one hot encoding and convert this entire data into the right format. Because in machine learning, always remember one fact that the machine learning algorithm takes the data in the form of numbers. But if we have to give it the right kind of format, so initially which where we had completely those numbers, if we had simply passed that data into our machine learning model, there could have been some kind of errors that would have crept in because initially the data couldn't Python couldn't understand whether the data was categorical data or whether those particular numbers had any significant value associated with it. So it relies on us as to make sure that this particular columns are in the right format. So now the major columns, whatever had to be in category format, have been converted. So now we what we'll do is we are going to take the one hot encoding and convert this particular data into the required format. So we will simply take the help of pandas dot get dummies. Inside this, I'll just pass in our data frame that is df, and I'll simply say drop first is equal to true. What this will do is, now, for example, let's take the gender. In gender, we have male and we have female. So once this particular conversion happens, what Python will do is it will give us both this particular data into two columns. Okay, this one particular column will be converted into two columns, that is male and female. But if we give both this data sets, both male and female data into the machine learning model, the model is going to get confused. So as to not confuse the model, what we do is we drop the first column. Okay, so so in case of this gender, out of this male and female, we are going to drop the first column and the second column will remain, and that will be more than sufficient for the for the model to give us the accurate outputs. This same process is done for every column that is in the categorical format. So here the chest pain type we saw we have about five categories. So out of this five categories, for the first category will be dropped. Okay. So this is what this particular line is doing. So get dummies drop first is going to make sure of that. So if I run this particular line, and now if we look at the df dot head, so you can see here this particular conversion has happened. Okay. So for example, let's take the gender. So gender, you will only see this the first part. Similarly, the other variables you will be able to see all of these. So let's say the first entry that is present here. Okay, this would mean that this particular person is a male. That is the reason we have one here and not zero. And similarly, the kind of chest pain type this person has is this particular uh, piece, that is a non-anginal pain. That has been marked as one, and the rest of them has been marked as zero. Okay, so this data is now ready for our model. But before we do the model, we have to make a small check. That check is the target variable that we have, is it balanced or not? So we have to do a simple visualization and we have to check those. So what I'll do is I'll go for a simple count plot, and inside the count plot, I'll take the target variable. Here for us, the target variable itself has been named as target. So we'll take x is equal to target. Similarly, the data is nothing but df, and we have, and this time I'm going to give something called as a palette, that is the color format. We have various color formats present, so I'm going to go for something called BWR format. To complete this particular plotting, I'll simply say plt.show. So this will show the particular plot inside the notebook itself. So we can see both the target variable 0 and 1 are both are almost balanced. Okay, I'm not saying they're exactly balanced, but one is at 140, the other is at 160. So somewhat of a balance is there. It's not completely skewed towards any one particular type. Okay. Next thing that we'll do is, now let's actually build our particular model. Okay. So let's go for the decision tree models. And here the first thing that we'll do is we have to define those attributes and the target variable. Okay. So here for defining the attributes, I'm going to call it as X, and I'll simply say df.drop, and here we'll say this particular column was nothing but the target. We're going to drop that particular column, and we're going to say axis is equal to 1. To make sure that it has all the columns except the target column. Similarly, Y will have only the target column. Okay, now let's run this. X and Y are been defined. Now, remember I had mentioned we have to do a simple train test split of the data before we can actually do some kind of modeling. So I'm going to do exactly that. So train test split, I'm going to hit Shift Tab now. And once we expand this, and once you scroll down, you'll actually see a small example here. So what I'll do is I'm going to simply copy this example. This will actually help us save some time on coding it out. Okay. So here I'm going to make this adjustment, and since we only have about 300 entries here, I'm going to keep the test size to only 20%. Okay, and let's keep our random state to, instead of the default 42, let's just convert it to 10. You can give any kind of number to the random state. I have just taken 10 for the time being. Okay, now once we run this, our data has been split to test and train. Okay, now that this particular data is ready, only thing left to do is we have to create our model. So the decision tree classifier, I'm going to call it DTC, short for decision tree classifier. You can give any kind of name to this particular object. I like giving it the shortcut names. So we are going to take an object, so decision tree classifier, I'm going to put in extra brackets so that we get an object of this particular model. Once this object is ready, all that is left to do is we have to take our training data and fit it into this particular model so that we get our equations. So that you can do by dtc.fet method. And inside the fet method, you're going to pass in the train information. Okay. So X train and the Y train data. This particular information is, we built this particular train and test data here, X train, Y train, X test, Y test. So we're going to use this train information here, X train and Y train. Once we run this particular model is fitted with our training data. All that is left to do is we can do some kind of predictions and check how well the model has been performing. So what we can do is we can say ypred is equal to, ypred is short for y predictions, and all that you can do here is dtc.predict. So inside predict, you have to simply pass in the test data. So here we are going to pass in the XTest data. So by passing the XTest data, the whatever prediction will happen, that means our Y test predictions will be calculated here. Okay. So now once this particular line is run, we have the actual Y test values, which are the actual values we have. Okay. And here, this particular, after this line is run, we have the predicted values that we are getting from the model. Now to check how well our model is performing, what we can do is we can compare this actual Y test values with the predicted values. So I'm going to take these two variables, Y test and ypred, and compare them. And that will tell me how well this model has performed. Okay. So the first thing that I'll do is we will take the help of confusion matrix. So we have here confusion matrix, and inside the confusion matrix I'm going to pass in the y test and the y pred. That is the y predictions. Okay. So y test and y pred, we are going to compare these two numbers and see for ourselves as to how well the model has performed. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a heat map wherein we can actually get a better, or you could say more colorful way of looking at the same output. And let's go for the annotation. So annote is equal to true. Next thing what we can do is, so let's make this graph a little colorful today. Okay. So I'm going to go for CMap, and CMap I'm going to write it as, let's give it a shade of light blue. So I'm going to go for CMap of blues. Similarly, I'm going to keep the format to only numbers, no decimal places. So the format will be D. Okay. The next thing is we are going to remove the C bar. C bar is nothing but the side bar that comes up whenever we are going to build a heat map. So I'm going to, for the time being, I don't want the C bar, so I'm declaring C bar to be false. Okay. The next thing I'll do is those particular numbers that we have, let's give it a bigger size. So here, let's declare a dictionary wherein we'll simply say the size parameter, we'll give the size parameter a value of, let's say, 12. Okay. Once all of this is done, we'll simply say plt.show. Okay. So now understand what we have done here. Here first, in the first line, we have actually calculated the confusion matrix. Okay. The confusion matrix is being calculated using y test and the y predicted values. So we are comparing the actual values with the values that the model is giving us. Once we have these numbers, the on second line, what we are doing is we are just representing this entire thing in a colorful format. Okay, so now once I run this, you can see we get a nice, beautiful graph. Okay, and in our particular confusion matrix, this particular diagonal should have most high number of values. So we can see this particular diagonal has the highest number of values, 25 and 18. Okay, and these particular values should be very low, and considerably those values are less compared to this particular diagonal. So 25 we have only 10 here, 18 we only have 8 here. So the model seems to be working really well. But what if I want to know exactly how well the model is working? So I want a particular number, let's say. So I can say this model is working, or this model is so and so percent accurate. So if I want a number for, let's say, by precision, or I want a number for the accuracy, for that what I can do is we can check the classification report. Okay. Inside the classification report, we have the y test and the y pred. The exact same thing which we passed inside the confusion matrix, we're going to pass the same thing here. Okay. And once we run this, we can see the classification report is giving us a value of this model is 70% accurate. Okay. Not a very, I wouldn't say excellent model that we have values above 80, but it's not a bad model either. Okay. So depending only on one decision tree, we were able to get a accuracy of 70%. So if we want to improve this model, the next step the next logical step that we can take is we can actually uh, perform a random forest and see whether or not this particular accuracy is going up or not. Okay, so that would be something that you would want to try out on your own, or we'll see whether or not we'll be able to uh, do this particular task in some other webinar. Okay, now this is one way of looking at the accuracy, that I directly call on the classification report and it will give me the complete picture. But what if I'm only interested in the accuracy number? I just want one number, that is the 70% number should come out. And instead of writing all this, if there was some other way. So there's one other shortcut that decision tree has. What you can do here is you can simply say DTC, that is our object dot score, and inside this you're going to pass in the test data. So X test, comma, Y test. You can do that, and you can multiply this with 100. Okay. Once you run this, you will get your accuracy number. So if you actually see, if this was minimized to only to no decimal places, then we get our 70%. That is what has happened in our classification report. Okay, so this is another way of looking at the accuracy of this model. So let's say instead of calculating all this particular confusion matrix and the classification report, you're in a hurry and you just want to figure out what is the exact percentage this model is giving me. So after this particular step, after this prediction YPRED step, you can simply run this particular line of code and you can see the score. Okay, so this is what I had for you today. Do we have any doubts? Hello.
It was nice seeing your presentation. And I have one doubt regarding the data that is in the Excel sheet, right? So, what was it?
Manoj, just a minute. There's a disturbance in your voice. Would you just type out your question in the chat? I'll read it through.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
In the meantime, does anybody else have any doubts? This particular data has been taken from a particular website, Manoj. So you could say it was taken for training purposes because if you look at domains like banking or medical domain, specifically medical domain, I don't think there would be any person who would be willing to give out their particular uh, details just like that, because medical data is always a very sensitive data. So if you're looking as to which hospital and all, you wouldn't be getting that particular information. Yeah, you can consider that, yes. Do we have any other doubts? Okay, if this is the case, then I think Nancy, we can close this particular session.
Hi, Partha. I think Nancy is a bit busy, so I'll just cover up for her. Anyway, thanks a lot, Partha. This session was wonderful, and I hope everyone else also enjoyed a lot. And to those who have been asking for the notebook, we'll share the notebook and the video recording of this webinar with you sometime next week. Meanwhile, if you want to go through all the previous webinars and notebooks for the webinar, you can just look at the chat box. I have dropped the link where you can sign up and get access to all the previous webinars and notebooks for free. Thanks a lot, and we hope to see you all again in the next upcoming webinars. Thank you. Thank you for joining.